Hello and welcome to whatever episode we're on, first one of the year. Not been on since November, who cares, not me. But we're back. We're back with another episode, and as you can see, it's not the usual three. We decided that this episode would be a playoff special, so that only teams that made the playoffs were in it. Tom was just there, as you can see, but we've not invited him. No, Tom can't make it. So we have got JP, who I'm sure you know from the Overtime Show, and as always, we have Jamie. And those three teams have made the Super Bowl. Behave, Matt. Those three teams have made the playoffs.
There we go. I did it right now. I did it right now.
So welcome. Thanks for joining us. If you are on live, get on the comments on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever else, Twitch, I don't know, to let us know your thoughts. Well, we didn't just decide that it would be a playoff episode. We thought we'd go for anyone from any of our shows whose team won this weekend. So we have a fourth member to join us, and we have Bones. And I'm sure we'll go into it at some point. But they beat the number one seed in the AFC, probably the favourites or one of the favourites to win the Super Bowl. So that's why Bones is off his tits at the minute.
Hasn't slept since.
It's not Victory Monday, it's Victory Week, I think, for Bones. But yeah, beating the Packers is an easy. It's not an easy feat, regardless of what team they put out. But I'm sure we'll go into that. I've got Elusive Poets on. This is definitely the right episode to skip the Giants fan. I'm sure Tom might even nip in the comments to reply to that if he's available. And Chris is on as well. We have two Lions fans. The whole of the UK Lions fan base is currently in this show. So, I mean, first and foremost, thanks for joining us, JP and Bones. It's good to have a mix. If I say so myself, probably the best two from each pod. Obviously trying to get a bite out of the other guys who might be watching. We were supposed to have Mark on, but he's probably doing something somewhere with his really small head. And so I think we're just going to go straight in, really. And Jamie, I think you were the first team ours to make the playoffs. So talk us through the last 6 weeks or whatever it's been.
It's been a while. I don't think we lost a game in that whole time. I was so happy to come and talk about stuff, but unfortunately, life gets in the way in busy times. But yeah, we did it. I say we didn't win. I mean, we lost to the Saints twice, so there you go. So that's probably why I didn't come on, because, I hate the fucking Saints. And we'll get on to the Saints later, I'm sure. But, we lost to the Saints twice. Awful. I think that was the last episode, because I wanted to talk about Jameis Winston, and then he got injured. Yeah. And then, like I said, we lost to the Saints, and we've won all the rest. First time since 2007, we've won the NFC South. Can't complain about that. Very happy. The Bucks won the South, apparently, but there you go. And it's the first time in, I think since 2015, all of us have won it. Pretty competitive division over the last 5-7 years. That the Saints,
pretty weak,
Panthers,
depends which way you look at it.
Falcons have all won it. Well, yeah, you could also say that about the NFC East, can't you?
The NFC what? Sorry, I think you mean the NFC least.
The least. Oh, shit.
I like the way JP's not saying anything because they're playing the Cowboys. So.
I have tons to say on that yet, but I'm not going to filibuster the entire show. We've only been on for 5 minutes.
You know me, I'm short and sweet. I'm happy to be here. Playoffs. We've got the Eagles on Saturday. Luckily, no, we are. I'm pretty sure with the Nickelodeon games. I can't wait to get slimed. It's going to be great. But yeah, we're in the playoffs. Mike Evans got over 1,000 yards for the season. Very happy. Godwin's out, unfortunately. Grayson got injured in the last game. It's not looking good for the playoffs with a load of players that are out, with Fournette as well. Hopefully they'll all be back. They're saying all the defensive players should be back for the playoffs. So that's good news at least, because, our defense won it last year. But yeah, optimistic. I think we should beat the Eagles, but then it comes from there. Can we beat the Packers? On any day, sure. But the Packers at the moment are...
On a January in Lambeau. As well, just to make it a bit worse, yeah.
Like I said, it runs through there, but obviously because of what happened in JP's game, the Bucks finished seed number 2. So it runs through Tampa and then Lambeau, unfortunately, as long as we do well and get there, which I think we should beat the Eagles. And then it comes down to what it would be the Cowboys, I reckon.
Ooh.
I don't know. I mean, you've got the Rams, Cardinals, the 49ers. Oh yeah, of course, Chris. I mean, we haven't even talked about that on the podcast as well. But AB, obviously the whole Antonio Brown situation.
That was the best drama of the entire season. I've loved it so much.
The worst part is every week I have gone home. I've got 2 tellies. My second telly's still out now because I was up watching the Raiders game, the first half anyway. My second telly's out, and then obviously I've been at work. But every week I always have Red Zone on my telly, and then have like the big game on the big telly. So I'm always having both on. The week I decide to go out and go to a pub and have some wings and enjoy some beer with Matt and a fellow fan of the show, and all the shit goes down. So I hardly saw anything of the Bucs-Jets game because obviously Red Zone just didn't want to pick most of it up. And then Antonio Brown's going off doing mental stuff. So no idea what was going on, because when we were in the pub, I don't think they even had sound on. I can't even remember if they did it at one point. So yeah, ridiculous. But there you go.
It's really become clear, hasn't it, over the week that it was really about money. That's all it's about.
I mean, you talk about money. I mean, pretty sure Brady likes to get his friends paid. He basically got Gronk $500,000 in that game last night just by making sure he got some yardage.
That was part of AB's problem, though, wasn't it? Is Gronk's on this great deal and I'm on a crap one, but never stopped for a second to ask why he was on the prove it deal as a star wide receiver. Like, why do you think you're on that deal, bro? Like,
it's almost like he's not an knobhead.
Well, there you go. But no, we are in the playoffs. I'm wearing, just because, you never know, I could bring it out again. Raise the flag, Super Bowl winners. So whether it's going to happen this year, I don't know. But we'll see what happens next week when maybe 3 of us are in the playoffs, but we might not be in the playoffs next week. And then just quit. No,
well, okay. I mean, the Bucs are still a strong team, aren't they? They're still one of the teams in the NFC, I think, to beat. They'll be there or thereabouts. I'm going to try not to use that phrase all the way through the episode. But talking of the NFC and the playoffs, it takes us nicely to JP. Talk us through it, mate. Last few weeks, last night, pretty exciting stuff, to be fair.
Fuck me, how long have you got? I think
51 minutes.
I've never mentioned this on the podcast before, but I have mental health issues, and I think I know why, having watched this team. Somebody that suffers frequently from mood swings. I support probably the most unpredictable team in the NFL. I don't know what this team is. I don't know if they're good. I don't know if they're bad. They can be both in one game. They can be both in one play sometimes. We were absolutely... I don't know why this word keeps popping into my vocabulary lately, but we were gashed for the first half last night. Probably the worst I've seen an NFL team play, actually, in a game that matters. We were 17-0 down, barely touched the ball, managed to scrape a field goal before half-time, and suddenly second half, it was like the complete inverse of that. I don't understand. Just a little stat for all the stat heads out there. Sean McVay is 45-1 when leading at half-time. Fuck the Rams.
what does that make McVay's overall record against you now?
I don't think it's
0-9 or something. Like,
yeah, possibly. I think I read it came up during the game. We are inside his head for some reason. I mean, you only have to see his reaction to I think it was the second Higbee touchdown, where he was practically in the end zone with him, to know that it seems to really matter to him beating us. Maybe it's beating Shanahan. I don't know. They are contemporaries, but yeah, Jesus. A couple of shout outs, because I have to do it. If I don't do it, people will be shocked. Deebo Samuel, I'm sorry if people don't understand how good he is now. I can't help them. I genuinely can't help them. Rushing touchdown, passing touchdown, 4 catches for 95 yards. He might not be the MVP, but he's the MVP of this team. He does it all. Tremendous player. One of the top receivers in the NFL for me. We've discussed in the chat all year, but I haven't had a pod since, about Bosa and Max Crosby. Well, Bosa was a monster last night, despite not recording any stats, bizarrely. I think he only made a couple of tackles. Maybe had half a sack, I think. But I'm sure his PFF grade will be very high.
Crosby didn't do bad either, to be fair.
Who's that? Sorry.
Crosby did not have a bad night either for himself,
Crosby,
to be fair.
Crosby had an absolutely brilliant game last night. I've seen the highlights this morning. He seemed to be everywhere. Those are two really good players. I think one thing I would like to say, and I don't get many opportunities to talk like this anymore because we haven't done a podcast for about 2.5 months, is that I think there's a perception in the chats and just in general that you can't support your team if you're sometimes critical of them. And I'm very critical of my team. There are things about this team that I really do not like. But that's part of being a fan. There are some things you don't like, but you still have the right to cheer and fucking go mental when your team do something when it matters. And I went mental last night. I think I've destroyed my sofa, to be honest. It's just out of shot.
Did you throw your nan at your sofa?
Got the ironing board out and everything. It was
Gaz's kid on the ironing board.
But no, being slightly more serious and being an analytics weirdo, as Tom would say, shout out to Tom. Second half, I thought we were insanely good, particularly on the D-line. I've already said about Bosa, but Eric Armstead deserves some credit as well. I thought he had an absolutely outstanding game last night. Probably the best I've seen him play, to be honest. Back at receiver, Juwan Jennings, nobody's heard of him. I understand that, but clutch, absolutely clutch. Three catches in key situations when we needed it. And yeah, and one other thing I wrote down because I couldn't believe it, Robbie Gould having to go to punter when we lost our punter in the first quarter with a concussion. When you kick us punting in a must-win game, that should really be the end of it. He actually ended up with better stats than our punters have for the last 3 games. So, and of course, kicked the field goal that won it. But I don't know where this team's going to go. We've obviously got Dallas on Sunday, which is, to me, that's the kind of game the NFL is all about. That's two historically good teams, historical rivals. We've had some massive games in the past, and it's a playoff game. That atmosphere is going to be insane. I can't wait for that. Do I think we can win it? Yeah, I think we can win it, but I think we have to be on our game from the first whistle. We can't do what we did last night. We're not going to get away with the same thing, but I'm really looking forward to seeing where this team goes. They're absolutely batshit insane. I don't think they're the best coached team in the world. There's certainly some issues there, but you can't deny the fight. And all season, there's been moments where you felt like, yeah, this is it. This is where the run ends. But somehow we've kept going. And I want to be proud of them, but I also want to strangle them at the same time. This is why I've never kept a girlfriend. But yeah, it's a bizarre old team. It really is. I honestly don't know what to make of it all, but I am absolutely elated we've made it in. There aren't many more dramatic ways you can end up in the playoffs, except for, of course, what the Raiders did, which, it's a bizarre one.
Question there from Dre Ruiz, JP. How does Shanahan have McVay's number? Haven't figured out the reason why. Certainly does seem that way, doesn't it?
It's a strange one because if you think about all those guys from the same tree, you've got like McVay, you've got Shanahan, you've got LaFleur at Green Bay. They've all kind of outcoached each other at different times, but Shanahan seems in particular to have McVay's number. I honestly couldn't tell you why. It just seems to be, maybe it's because they're so close in mindset. I think there seems to be a knowledge, and Shanahan seems to pull out more of his trick plays in those games, almost as though he knows he has to. He has to get away from what he does the rest of the time. You only have to look at the passing touchdown last night, the reverse to fucking Deebo Samuel, is then throwing the ball up to Juwan Jennings. I wouldn't have called that in that situation, but maybe that's the point. I don't know, but imagine they meet again in the playoffs. That's another game with stakes on it. It could happen. I actually fancy the Rams to get past the Cardinals, so you do kind of have to. I hope we get past Dallas, and then anything can happen, really. But yeah, I signed up to come on the pod last night at halftime, thinking I would get to rant for like the best part of 20 minutes about how this team's basically screwed everything up, because there are a lot of things they've done wrong, but it's impossible not to be proud of them. They've done really well to kind of keep fighting, and they're in the playoffs now, and I know it's a long shot, but there's been plenty of long shots before. I mean, Nick Foles has won a Super Bowl, for Christ's sake. This is what I keep going back to. So I'm going to believe, as long as we're in it, that we can do it. But Dallas is a tough game. But if anyone's going to beat them because of the history, I think it's us. I think we can do it. But it's going to be tough. But I am really looking forward to seeing it.
I am, and that's why I spoke to you today and asked you when the game was. So I can watch it. I am available then on Sunday night. Is it 9 o'clock on Sunday or 9:30 on Sunday? So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think, like you said, it'll be you'll get. It's a tough game. Dallas are on fire at the moment. I am a fan of Dak Prescott. Ooh, Dak finger me. And they're good on both sides of the ball. I think that's what's probably key. Is they're not just a really high-powered offense and not just pinging in touchdowns from all over. They're stopping teams as well. I know the Eagles are pretty shit, but to beat them 50 odd, whatever it was, to 20 in the divisional game is.
Sorry, mate. The only thing I would say about the Cowboys, obviously Diggs gets a lot of credit because he's had a lot of turnovers, but he's also given up a ton of yardage. So they're not statistically they're pretty good, but I do kind of wonder if you get in a close game whether we can exploit it. You wouldn't expect Garoppolo to be ripping it deep downfield very often, but on the other hand, he did it last night with 1:17 to go, which 88 yards in 1:17 with no timeouts. I've had to watch it again. I'm fucking baffled how he did that. That was the last thing I expected.
Any hope, mate? The Raiders beat the Cowboys this year, and that was right in the middle of our troubles. So
very true, yeah.
They're not unbeatable by any stretch. So I think we'll stick with the a couple of bits there. Actually, NFC West had two great divisional finales. Jimmy G is such a bizarre start, which is basically what you've just been saying. And then Gaz wanted to know if you ironed your nan. So yeah, I hope they bounce the Cowboys
out. She's been dead for 5 years.
I think we'll move on from that one.
I like to say with Elusive Poet who's saying, do you guys ever live stream games? I think this is quite an interesting one because judging from the people in the stream, if you've seen the chat before, you don't want to be in the room with us. I mean, I'm not so bad to a degree, but if you've ever been in a room with or in a chat with us guys, you don't want to see us live stream a game because, nans will get thrown at couches.
Ooh, can I just say one more thing? And
weekly roller coaster of emotions is what I would describe it as.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm a roller coaster all on my own. Everybody else is quite level compared to me. But one thing I am going to say, because I'm not known for giving this man credit, and it's been the cause of some behind-the-scenes strife in the old third and short world. Matt Stafford had a great game last night. Aside from the interception, which people are going to remember because it cost them the game, but some of the throws he made, particularly the third down throw to Cup, were, considering he was getting hit at that stage of the game, he was getting hit on almost every play. That's about as well as I've seen him play in those situations.
Fred Warner killed their offensive line on multiple plays. Like there was one play where he literally destroyed 2 linemen on his own, and you just got to say, how do you stand a chance of even throwing the ball when your lineman is like, whoa?
It's funny because that actually showed a weakness that I think has been there all year with the Rams. That O-line isn't great. It's okay, but it's not at the same level as some of the teams they're going to come up against. But
it's inconsistent. That's what his biggest problem is. When we did the preseason stuff about them, I looked into it, and I remember looking at the Rams O-line has not changed in 3 years, 4 years. 1 year it's the best, next year it's the worst. Next year it's the best, year after it's the worst again. There's just zero consistency with the exact same personnel, and I think that's never something you want in a football team. Consistency is better than skill every time.
Massively. If you want to know one reason why Shanahan has McVay's number, by the way, which is kind of spawned off this discussion, they cannot run the ball against us at all. You look at any of the games we've played against them this year, they haven't been able to run the ball, and we have, and that has made a big difference when it's counted. But yeah,
unless the question meant why do people think they have the number? In which case, it's because the Rams haven't beaten the 49ers in 2.5 years.
I mean, you say the same though that the Bucs and the Saints, the Bucs haven't beat the Saints in the regular season for ages, especially in the last 4 games in the regular season anyway. And they had Taysom Hill at quarterback and Trevor Siemian in one of them.
It's funny because you look at it and the first game this season, the one in San Francisco, we were, even Shanahan has said, I think, we were at rock bottom when we played that game. I was watching that game thinking that was going to be the end of the season and we'd probably see Trey Lance the next week. And we absolutely pasted them. And I was like, where the fuck has this come from? And similar to last night, I didn't think we had a chance at 17-0, but to come back, it's just, there's some teams, I guess it's the same in any sport. There's some teams that just have the number over others, and there's reasons for it, but sometimes it's just psychological. At this stage, I don't know if they believe they can beat us. I'm talking to a Rams fan last night that he's like, McVay's going to lose his record of like being unbeaten when they lead at half time. And I'm saying there was like 8.5 minutes left at this stage. I'm like, what are you on about? There's loads of the game left yet. He's like, I can just see the way this is going. And okay, it didn't. I don't think it worked out the way he thought it was going to do, because we were in the red zone at the time, and then Garoppolo decided to throw the ball at Jalen Ramsey. But like, it's such a strange. I got to say something else. The NFL is the best sport in the world. If you don't believe it after last night, that was the most. I mean, not discounting our game, the Raiders game, the Steelers and Ravens game. There was just some absolutely batshit insane stuff going on last night. Even the games that didn't really have tons of stakes, like the Seahawks and Cardinals, that was a good game too. I've watched that back this morning. Russell Wilson suddenly looked like a quarterback again. What is? Honestly, it was so good. But yeah, my initial point stands. I thought Stafford, as much as it is a bit of a gritted teeth moment for me, Stafford was really good last night. Some of those throws, the one to Cup, I thought, well, if that's the one, the one on third down, but also the touchdown throw to Cup at the end of that drive, I thought, well, if that beats us, there's not a lot you can say. Sometimes those things just happen to you, but I wasn't banking on Garoppolo suddenly discovering his inner Joe Montana in the last minute and a half. So there you go.
There are two players at the top of the single season receiving yards records, isn't there? And they've both got one thing in common, and it's Matthew Stafford, because it's Calvin Johnson and it's Cooper Kupp.
I think I was going to say, it sort of takes us nicely from Stafford's current team to his old team, Bones. The Lions picked up a win against arguably the best team in the NFL at the moment. That's going to rattle a few people, but the Packers are looking unreal.
Tied best record, to be fair, 12-4. There's only two teams on 12-4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was. I mean, I saw online someone say about the quick point on Stafford was final play of the game was an ode to Detroit to end the season, just throw an interception to end the game, because why not? But no, beating the Packers is beating the Packers. No matter where we are in the year, we could have been 0-16 up to that point. We could be 1-17 in the year, and as long as that one is the Packers, everything's fine. I said to Chris last night when the game was on, I was like, if we win this game, it's not going to affect standings for the Packers or us. It's not going to change much, but it sets a precedent going into the off season for this team. And I think I'm restrained. I'm trying to restrain myself from being too happy about it, because I've been happy about this team in the past, and it's been an absolute disaster. But the direction this team's going is good, and I mean, we've definitely set a trend in the NFC North, looking at the way the Vikings and the Bears have just blown up their front offices. So everyone's scrapping their old systems now. So maybe we've got a chance going into next year. We've got a year's head start on the rebuild. We look like we've got a good mentality going into this next season. Brad Holmes drafted well. Look how well Amon-Ra St. Brown's done as a 4th round draft pick for us. It's a tricky one, because he might stand out on the Lions because the rest of our talent is a bit more down here. But he still looks like he's going to be good for the future for us. We did well this year, it feels like. Sewell, McNeil, there's a few people that have done well. And we also got rid of Anthony Lynn, who I would say is part of the reason we struggled in the early portion of the year.
The Lions haven't been blown out at all. They've been in so many close games. So I know it was a 3 whatever record, but it's not really, in my opinion, a true reflection of how well they've played.
It's an odd one, isn't it? A couple of bounces of the ball and they've won 5 or 6 games. It's field goals and things like that. And then suddenly exactly. They're a middle of the road team. They're doing really well for year one.
It's the best 3-win season in NFL history.
I actually think, is it number 2 pick you've got?
Yeah. We could have had number 1 if we'd lost last night, because the Jags won, didn't they? But
yeah.
It's people are saying, we lost the first pick, but what pick did we get Penei Sewell at last year?
Who wants the number 1 pick anyway?
Yeah,
we were talking about this the other day. When was the last time a number 1 pick went on to win the quarterback, went on to win the Super Bowl? The last person that did it, pick 1, was center for the Kansas City Chiefs.
We got
in 2013, and it took them 2019 to win it.
this year we got a rookie left tackle / right tackle that held his own against Nick Bosa at pick 7. So anyone who's upset that we're now pick 2 over pick 1 is losing the frickin' mind because we got Sewell at 7.
To be completely honest, the Jags are not going to pick a quarterback. They've got Trevor forever, should be probably the saying. So depending on what the Lions want to do with Goff, they're going to have the pick of every quarterback in the draft. So it's made no difference really because the Jags will not take a quarterback. There's no unless they trade it, which I don't think they'll do. I think
No.
Just do a 2 quarterback system, Mariota and Derek Carr doing it just like that. Who knows? 2 rookies.
The nice spot for the Lions is they could trade that pick as well. I think there'll be some takers for that pick. And I've said this all the way back, going back to season previews. The smart people in charge there now, they're building lines out, and you can tell that with guys like Sewell, the D lineman they drafted. They've supplanted it really well with getting good receivers in the 4th round. It's hard to find good receivers, especially rookies. I really like what the Lions are doing. I said I was probably more optimistic than everybody else about the Lions. I said I think they'll win a few games. I thought they'd win more, but let's be fair, with a bit of luck, they would have won a few more. It's not like they were shit.
Easy.
The weirdest part is the wins came against teams like I did my prediction at the start of the year, and I had 4 to 5 wins max, and they were against teams like the Bengals and the Seahawks because they were a bit iffy when I did those predictions, and it wasn't the Cardinals and the Green Bay Packers and like these kind of teams that had us beaten. It was shit teams, and then we beat like division leaders. It was just weird and you can't even make the excuse for the Cardinals you can make for Green Bay where it's like, oh, it was our second string, like blah blah blah, even though Aaron Rodgers was losing in the first half anyway. But the Cardinals played Murray. Murray got benched against the Lions for Colt McCoy. Like, it's not where I expected the wins to come. And in a weird way, they're really good wins to see. And I'm happy Dan Campbell's play calling has gone well.
It kind of shows you can't just judge on the record sometimes as well, though, because like you've won 3 games and the Giants have won 4. But who would you rather be a fan of right now? I know I'd rather be a fan of the Lions. At least it looks like they're going somewhere. That's the thing for me.
Yeah, that is the thing. The future is bright right now, and I think that's all I've got to go on.
The Giants are fucked. I think they're going to be
starting. They've got 2 top 10 picks, though.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what they do with them, shall we?
Why didn't they fire Joe Judge? Why has he still got a job? I do not understand.
Can we take a minute to appreciate the QB sneak on 2nd and 9 and then 3rd and 9?
On your own 5-yard line and not getting fired. How did anyone in that boardroom not go, we need to fire this man?
This is why we need Tom, because I'm sure none of us would choose to watch that game, whereas he probably chose to obviously watch that game and have a reason of why it happened. Because looking at it on Red Zone, everyone's just like, what the hell's going on? It went to a fan just going, pass the ball, what are you doing?
The thing is, if you're going to do a QB sneak as well, you'd put Glennon in, wouldn't you? His neck's about 3 yards long, so you get
first down just like on there.
He just pops his head over the line.
Not sure if you were all here since the start, but it is now in Tom's entrance, like little video VT at the beginning. Got that little quarterback sneak there, so there you go.
Can I jump in on what Dre Ruiz has just commented? Because I don't care if Daniel Jones wasn't your guy or not. There is no excuse for Kenny Golladay, 0 touchdowns. First round wide receiver, Kadarius Toney, 0 touchdowns. Doesn't matter who your quarterback is. Like, we've had David Blau score more freaking touchdowns than that. Like, get out of here with that sort of nonsense, Giants fans. I'm sorry. Judge deserves to be fired out of a cannon into the sun, as JP would say. Like.
I'm just going to throw something in as well. I hate it when NFL teams do this. They have a coach that is obviously not going to take them anywhere. So the coach gives a presentation, which seems to be the new thing, to the ownership or the GM or whatever. And it's like, oh, yeah, you've got 1 more year to turn it around. When has that ever worked? Has there ever been a coach ever that has been that bad and been given 1 more season and turn it around? I can't immediately think of one. I'm sure there probably is one somewhere in history, but basically, if you're a Giants fan, you've just written next season off because you're going to get a new GM anyway, so you're going to start rebuilding, and you keep it Judge for another year.
I don't get when teams replace the GM and not the head coach. Like we've done it before. Before the Patricia era started, we had Dan Quinn and I think was his surname Quinn and fucking
Bob Quinn.
Bob Quinn, sorry, not Dan Quinn. And then we had Jim Caldwell at the start of his tenure, and then he fired him and was like, "Oh, Patricia's my guy. Let's get my guy in." And we all saw how badly that went. Like, if you're going to replace the front office, just get rid of the whole thing. Why get rid of half of it and fanny around? Like, it just seems pointless.
The only thing I can think of is that because they're probably writing off next season, are they sort of throwing Judge under the bus a little bit and say, well, you're going to have a shit season. You're going to get 2 first-round picks, 2 top 10 picks as well, which the new GM can deal with, and say, right, well, we'll let Judge fuck it up, and then we'll get rid of him next year, bring in a new head coach with some 2 rookies that have had a good season who should be decent, being top 10 picks.
I'm interested to see who wants that GM job, because I think they would have to be given assurances that, like, if this goes the way I think it is, can I fire this guy in 12 months and I'm not going to get any of it on me? Because otherwise, why would you take the job? Like, it just doesn't.
It's a thankless task in New York as well.
I think that's a really good point that Matt's made, though. Like, you bring in a new head coach in a system where you start in a rebuild, basically. Like, you could have a rough first year. Look how many, like, mid-season Lions fans were like, oh, clearly Dan Campbell's not the answer after, like, 7 fucking games. Like, it's just... We look at the state. You can't look at our team and like blame it all on one. Like, that's the thing. Like, and you don't want that for a new head coach, because it is hard to make sure you overcome that. Like, we had to get a couple wins towards the end of the year. The Green Bay game is a big one to show that he should stay. Like, people who are like calling for his head already are a bit insane, but you don't want that to happen, do you? And if you can avoid it by keeping Judge around for a year, let him take the flack in the shit year, and bring a new guy in when everything's set. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that. It's a really good point.
You see a bit more of that now across the league as well. It does seem to be a bit more of a trend now, where they hire the GM. Used to be you fire everybody, which is kind of what the Vikings and the other guys, the Vikings Bears have done today. But there seems to be more of a trend now of like letting the GM go, hiring the GM. Look at Denver, for instance, keeping the coach for another year and then letting them do a coaching search the year after. I don't know why that suddenly started happening, but maybe it is for the reason you say. I think it kind of shields that year one.
I think we touched on it last night, that Denver firing Fangio is stupid, because they're a quarterback away from being very, very, very good. He's been shit on a little bit, and I'll never defend the fucking Broncos, but they're in a tough division with Herbert, with Mahomes, with the Raiders have been we've made the playoffs, they've been all right with regardless of what's happened. The rest of the team is good. They let Von Miller go. All right, he's not really set the world on fire in LA, but they're a good team minus the quarterback. So I don't know. I think it's a bit harsh, but somebody's going to get a very good defensive coordinator off the back of it.
It's probably the weirdest firing so far, I think. Like, it's the one team I would have thought would have given him another chance, because I don't think the quarterback situation is his fault. Like,
no, give him a good quarterback and then see what happens.
Slightly true to the end of the year.
I'm better than Drew Lock.
Even when Teddy Bridgewater was looking all right, he ended up hurt, didn't he? So he was back to Drew Lock again. Like,
that's just Bridgewater's career in a sentence, though, isn't it? Every time he's looking all right, he's got hurt. The strange one in Denver is there's due to be an ownership change, I think, in the next 6 months or so. So all this that's going on right now might just get wiped out again in 12 months. If we're talking bizarre firings, Brian Flores, Miami, where the fuck did that come from? I'm seeing a lot of reports it's a power struggle, but still a bizarre firing, because he's going to get another job, surely. I don't know if he's going to get a head coaching job. I think he might. I think there'll be a team that might go for it.
I'd take him in Vegas. I would.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be one of those that has to take a step back to coordinator to get another head coaching role at all. Like, I think he's going to go straight into another job somewhere. Like, it is weird. There must be this power struggle thing must be real. Like, you must be. I've not heard it. I'm going to read into it after this pod. Like, I want to know.
Seems to be a lot coming out. I think it's partially Miami trying to get in front of the narrative, because I think they're taking a lot of heat for firing him. I can only assume they've got someone lined up. I don't know why you would do it without somebody planned to come in. Obviously, you're not allowed to do that because you're supposed to interview 2 minority candidates. But let's be honest, every team does it. They
might interview Flores again.
Interviewing for his own job, yeah. Listen, mate, we're going to fire you, but if you want it back, just sit here for 5 minutes. We can say we fulfilled the requirement. Then we're going to go off and hire Jim Harbaugh. Is that all right? Yeah, it's. But yeah, I mean, the others can't have any complaints. Najee can't have any complaints. The Bears have gone backwards at an unbelievable speed.
Tell you, Ben just made a great point there. I think Flores will do a great job in
that's a good shout. I hadn't actually put those two together. That's not a bad shout at all. They need a. I know Bones is going to hate this word because it'll remind him of Patricia, but they need a culture in Jacksonville. You know, like they need. I think they do need that. I think they do need a coach that's going to set the tone.
Yeah, just not a Patriots one.
Well, Flores is one of the few like success stories, as much as it can be, of the Patriots tree. Obviously, he's been fired now, so he'll go down as a bit of a failure. They
all struggle to stay in jobs. They leave the Patriots, and they all struggle to stay in a job because
they often butt heads with people. I think that's what it is, and that's what you're seeing with Flores, isn't it?
Not everyone has the gravitas to be Bill Belichick. Like Matt Patricia doesn't have that gravitas, and clearly it didn't work, and everyone fucking hated him.
Does.
Yeah,
and the thing is, I don't think Belichick had that gravitas before he won anything. Like I doubt he was like he is now in 2001. I think that's the bit that people are missing. You get that gravitas when you start winning things, and you know, after you've won 3 Super Bowls, yeah, you probably can talk down to people a little bit. You'll probably be all right. You can't do it when you fucking Matt Patricia. You've been a coordinator for 1 year. You know, like you do have to kind of pick your moments on that stuff.
I like our new culture way more.
Yeah, I think that's, and you know, it kind of tails back to the Giants. Sometimes it isn't about the record; it's about where the team looks like it's going. Does that team look like it's playing for Dan Campbell? Absolutely, it does. You know, does Miami look like it's playing for Flores? It did to me last night, and yet he's gone. So like, it's it's bizarre, isn't it? But equally, are the Giants playing for Joe Judge? Oh, they don't care. They don't want to be there. He better start ringing all those people that he says are contacting him saying they want to come back to the Giants because they won't have a roster next year if he doesn't. They're so bad. Sorry,
I think. You're all right. I think I was going to say we've delayed the Disney story long enough.
Been done with.
And I believe we have somebody who can talk at length about the NFL, not just the Raiders, but another guest whose team also won and also made the playoffs. Here he is. It's Mark. Mark, I was going to go on a little bit of a rant, not a rant, I was going to have a little moment about the Raiders, but I think it's much more enjoyable to hear in your voice. You've watched the game twice. I haven't. So I'll just say, before Mark talks about the Raiders, the game, if you're a neutral and you haven't watched the game, watch it. It literally, Disney couldn't have written a better script than what happened last night. Two divisional rivals, 2 historical rivals going at it, and a winner takes all.
In the last game of the regular season.
The last game of the regular season, primetime Sunday night, winner takes all. If the team's tied, they both go through. That was the situation. The game had everything. Obviously, you'll know the outcome because me and Mark are here. But I think he's just fucked off. I think I will let Mark's watched the game twice. I haven't. I've been at work today, but I will. When Mark brings his camera back on, I will let Mark go all out on the Raiders. But I will just say it. Given I've said it enough times, I feel like I'm sort of a bit of a broken record and repeating myself. But given what's happened, if you've been living under a rock during this NFL season, we had the Gruden incident where he lost his job. He didn't get fired, he walked away, but essentially he lost his job for something that happened forever ago. Rightly so. I'm glad he went because we were stuck in that fucking stupid contract for forever and a day with a dinosaur who hadn't been in the NFL for so long. So we managed to get rid of him. And then a couple of weeks later, Henry Ruggs murders somebody, essentially. And then a couple of weeks after that, Damon Arnett threatened somebody with a gun. So, you know, it's been the most bizarre season. We've brought in an interim head coach who was our special teams coach, who's never been a head coach before, but a lot of people had spoken about what kind of sort of person he is and how. I think Mike Mayock said he's never met a guy more ready for a head coach job than Rich Bisaccia. And we were I think we were 6 and 7 I think, or we were 6 and 7, and I'd given up on the season. I've made, that's not why the podcast didn't happen, and it's not only happened because we made this last night before the Raiders play. We agreed to this, and it probably would be more entertaining if the Raiders had lost. But for us to have had a winning season when it was 9 and 7, I saw that as a successful year given what had happened. To then go and win last night in the way that they did to make the playoffs, I think is outstanding from the team. We've lost Mark's face, which to the female viewers is probably for the best. But is it because your head's so small it's not picked up a face, Mark?
What it is I'm on my Apple Mac, and my Apple Mac has a broken camera, so I have an external camera which is now not connecting to my Apple Mac. And the only other laptop I've got is my work computer, and that's in my bedroom, and I can't go through the whole rigmarole. So I'm hoping if I play with the wires long enough, eventually the camera will come on. But until then, you've just got sound, Matt, I'm afraid.
No, mate, fill your boots. You've watched the game twice. Talk us through it.
George, you were describing it so well there. I've watched it twice, and I'm still to enjoy it. Like, I've literally watched it twice, and I'm still like, I don't enjoy watching this game of football. Like, it's a brilliant game of football for anybody who's not attached to either the Chargers or the Raiders. But it was gut-wrenching at the time. It finished at 5 o'clock, so I was knackered. I'm watching it now, and I still can't separate myself from the excitement or the nerves that I've had around it. And I think it's going to have to be a 3-watch game. Let's boil down. Let's pick apart the parts which I know. Max Crosby was absolutely phenomenal. When we think that Joey Bosa had 4 pressures all game, Max Crosby had 11 in the 4th quarter alone. Now, they didn't turn up as sacks, so I think he did get 1. But them pressures, when I was watching it back, just how often he was putting Justin Herbert, in positions where he couldn't make the pass. Justin Herbert threw the ball 64 times yesterday, completed 34 of them, I think it was, just over 50%. 2 players who we rarely mention at the Raiders played a huge role yesterday. Desmond Trufant, who we got up as a free agent midway through the season, signed him as an unrestricted free agent halfway through the season, had 5 passes defensed yesterday. And Faison, who was an ex-Charger, who was one of Gus Bradley's fixes when Trayvon Mullen got injured, although he lost some yardage, he turned up with 2 crucial passes defenses. One of them in the red zone on Mike Williams, where he made a play where Williams, for all intents and purposes, had caught it. And Faison come through and dislodged it. Just like, so there's that, you know what I mean, though? Then that's on the Raiders side of the ball. If we look at the Raiders offense, Marcus Mariota did a phenomenal job coming in and just creating something different for Brandon Staley to think about. I think he ran for 20-odd yards. Most of them were crucial yards, on 3rd down we would bring him in. And he would play the option, like the RPO option. And he put up some crucial yards of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards gains in those carries that he had. Josh Jacobs was a man possessed in the end of that game. He just ran over them, which we needed him to do because their run D is their Achilles, because they're going to be good in coverage. Then let's flip to the Chargers. Justin Herbert was making amazing throw after amazing throw after amazing throw when he needed to in 4th down. He was 6 for 6 for over 100 yards and a touchdown on 4th down alone. Like, that guy, when you take away your rival head and you look at him, you go, how clutch. And because he kept them in that game. Matt, do you remember in the 4th quarter, there was a point where there was 5 minutes left and they had a 4th down conversion. And originally the line judge had said they were a yard short, and they challenged it, and they found out that they were a couple of inches over, and now got a fresh set of downs. At that point, we were like 15 points ahead.
Yeah.
And there was 5 minutes left in the game. I was so tired when we got that call originally. I was like, that's it, game hour, I'm off to bed. The Raiders will run down the clock a little bit and will win this game quite easily. Of course, it was turned over and he threw a touchdown pass to Josh Palmer. Then he got the 2-point conversion. And then later on, he's come down the field again and done the same again. And I was like, what is going on? I was a nervous wreck. Then, of course, you've got overtime where we score a field goal. They score a field goal.
He threw another 4th down, didn't he, in overtime?
Do you know what it's like? The absolute best part of the evening was utter shithousery by the Raiders kicking a field goal to actually win the game. You know what I mean? We had incentive to win the game because if we'd went in on the tie, we would have faced the Chiefs again. Bearing in mind that they've just hung over 80 points on us in the last 6 weeks. And, I understand that the option of playing the Bengals is more appealing, even though they annihilated us as well a few weeks ago. But the chances, you don't want to play the Chiefs. They've just turned over you for 80 points. So I had a bit of a reason to win the game, but I just love the fact that we went for it and we actually did win it. And we kicked out our own division rivals at the same. Yeah. Absolute shithousery. Shouldn't have called a timeout, should they?
I think if they hadn't have called a timeout, we'd have probably taken the tie.
No, I don't think. I think the same, Matt. I think the same.
Yeah.
Do you know what I also think? Brandon Staley, he's been known for going for 4th down and 2-point conversions all season. Do you know the touchdown that they got at the end of the game? I'm surprised he didn't just go for 2 then to win it outright.
Yeah, I thought he might have.
I thought that was odd at the time. Yeah. But do you think it was because a field goal is probably more likely to go through and takes you to overtime, whereas if the 2-point try fails, you've just straight out lost? Like,
do you know he's gambled all season, Bones. He's gambled on 4th down, and he's gambled more than any other head coach this year on 4th down and 2-point conversions. He's really played the metrics, this guy, and it's kind of like he went away from what had got him there in the first place of a sniff. It's like his bottle went.
Showed his hand when the stakes are high, hasn't he now? When the stakes are high, he bottles it.
But yeah, I'm still fiddling with this camera because I'm sure people want to get a look at his
I'm sure being Raiders fans, mate, we have a large LGBT following. So you never know.
Yeah. But it's not working. I just need to put it down and stop fiddling on with it because it's not going to just
fix your camera as well,
Matt. But yeah, no, it was like I said earlier, it was too much to take in. There we go. You're back. It was a lot to take in during the game, especially with it finishing at like 5:15 this morning. And then because of the way in which the Raiders won the game, you don't go to sleep straight away because you're buzzing, you're awake, and you're excited and stuff. And it like I said, it had everything. The game. Disney couldn't have written it better or wrote it better. Good England.
I'm still wired now, Matt. I still feel wired now off it.
Yeah, I do. I've been at work all day, and I can't believe I've not. I've been buzzing.
I've watched it twice, and I still haven't processed it. You know, we lost 5 out of 6 games before we went on this 4-game winning streak. Like, we had no right getting into the playoffs with a team which was inept of talent for as long as what we were. You know, we lost Waller to injury for 4 or 5 weeks. Henry Ruggs, we've lost to an orange jumpsuit. You know what I mean, though? Our offensive line has been shambles for long stretches of the season. And they seem to put it together in the 4th quarter. You know, like, we've had head coach who has left. We've got an interim head coach who's a first-time head coach. We've had a 5-2 record at one point, and then had a 6-4, and then had a 6-5 record after that. You know,
like 6-7, wasn't it? 6-7.
Yeah, it's just I don't understand. You know what I hope though, and this is I'm going to give something back to you to talk about. I hope this doesn't mean that Rich Bisaccia gets the job full time. I've seen enough to know that I don't want him as head coach.
I was just going to ask you that exact question. Do you think if he does well in the playoffs, he deserves the chance or not?
I think if we beat the Bengals, I think he'll probably get offered the job. That's where I think it's going to be.
The odds aren't on his side, even if he does well. Like, even winning interim coaches generally don't get the job. So the probability isn't in his favour. But do either of you think he deserves it? Or are you both on the, no, I'd rather start fresh?
Do you know what boils down to, Bones? I still don't think we're a good football team. I still don't think we're a very good football team. We've won too many games by one score. Think of how many times Daniel Carlson has been out there and it's been his field goal that's won it. Now,
last night, was it the sixth?
Them one score 3-point games, they can be on an inch. You know what I mean? That's not something you can carry on into the next year. You know what I mean? We've seen this before. Where teams have got through and rode their luck. And look, we've rode our luck. Make no bones about it, Bones. We're not a good football team. We're not a good football team. We've got a roster which I would say is in the bottom third of the NFL. We're lacking a lot of talent.
I feel your pain. I know how that feels.
To have a roster that is that low down, as you say bottom third, for then Bisaccia to take us to the playoffs, does that not make you think, well, somebody's going to think, all right, they are a poor football team, but he still managed to find a way to win with like a shambles of an O-line.
Let me ask a slightly different question. Would he be considered for any other head coaching job?
No.
That's a better way of putting it. No, he wouldn't. The same can be said for Greg Olsen. Is Greg Olsen building a good offense? No. Does it come good when it needs to come good? Somehow, yes. How does it come good? I don't know. Is it divine intervention? I mean, we have got Derek Carr after all. You know what I mean? No, like it just seems like we're put with, like, take last night we had Jalen Richard got a 21-yard run on 3rd and 21. We're used to seeing that against us.
Yeah.
And, how often can you make them plays, Matt? How often can you expect to be making them plays? He did it, and it's just, I'm still trying to fathom how we've done this, by the way. I'm just trying to process what's in my head.
It's funny. You guys on the Raiders side and me on the Niners side seem to both be trying to process exactly how we're in this position. Yeah. And I don't have an answer for either of it. It's bizarre. I do have a statement from Rich Bisaccia. I believe it says, "Fine, I leave." Okay, well, there you go. I don't think he'll get the job, but I think he'll get interviewed for the job, and I think some heads will fall off amongst the Raider fan base, but I don't think he'll actually get the job.
I think what worries me is I don't know how much. It seems like the players have bought into him a little bit, and I don't know how much that might impact some of the bigger characters who might love Bisaccia if he doesn't get the job. I don't know what will happen. I don't know if Davis has got the bottle to. I can't even call him Davis. Boled has got the bottle to say no, you're not having the job. Back to do what you were doing. We'll get another guy, and you've done well, great, but see you later. I don't think Boled's got that in him. I don't know.
What if he got your assistant head coach role? As a middle ground, that sort of like you get a new head coach in, but you keep Bisaccia around as sort of like a bridge guy to help the new guy.
Does a new guy want his own guy? It's
possible.
This happened years ago. This is a subject, unfortunately, that brings back some horrible memories for me. When Jim Harbaugh mutually parted ways with the 49ers, there was talk we were going to hire, and I can't believe that this would have been a preferable alternative, but there was talk that we were going to hire Adam Gase. And the reason we didn't hire Adam Gase is that he wanted to keep Vic Fangio, and the ownership didn't want to keep him. So, yeah, how the fuck we've ever been successful with our ownership, I don't know. But that's sometimes what can happen. It gets very political once head coaches start changing, I suppose.
Imagine a world where the 49ers get Gase and the Jets get Shanahan. What a strange world that would have turned out to be.
Imagine Belichick had stuck it out with the Jets before he went. He did a month. Did he do a month with the Jets?
Jim Tomsula, who probably should never have been an NFL head coach. And then we followed it up by getting Chip Kelly, which was somehow even worse. So, yeah, I understand all the poverty stories that we get from the Lions fans sometimes, but fuck me, it's not like being a 49ers fan is easy.
I actually have a theory around the Raiders, and whilst you've been chatting, I've just thought, how do I explain what the Raiders season's been like? The whole team has never been good at one single time of the season. what's happened is we've had a handful of players, or even at different times, one player who has been really hot and carried everybody else. So it's like yesterday, Max Crosby was really hot. And in the fourth quarter, Josh Jacobs got really hot. But the week before, it was Zay Jones who was really hot. And the week before that was Renfrew who was really hot. And then the week before that, it might have been Max Crosby again. It's like the whole team can't have a really good performance at the same time. But what happens is 2 or 3 of them will be hot. Like last night, the only good players on our team last night, really, when you look at Carl's stats, they weren't that great. When you look, we had 3 players who played unreal last night. We had Jacobs, we had Desmond Trufant, and we had Max Crosby. And when you think about it, Matt, look at the performance and go, outside of them, who was brilliant.
I tell you who, for me, has been it's not a shock, I suppose, as such, but Denzel Perryman has been solid for the whole season.
Solid,
just checked again. Then, yeah, so I think he's made the Pro Bowl, hasn't he? Last night he had 8 tackles, which I'm pretty sure at one point recently he was leading the NFL in tackles. But he's not been amazing. He's just been solid. And maybe if we had more players who were solid, and then you had your handful of players who were hot at times, we'd be winning games comfortably.
If we had more amazing players, how many Raiders are going to the Pro Bowl?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
That tells you that we're not a team of superstars. We've got 3 players, I think, going to the Pro Bowl.
And one of them is our kicker.
One of them's our punter. The other one's our punter.
Yeah.
Pro Bowl's bullshit anyway. Our NFL leading punter wasn't picked as any of the punters. Like, Pro Bowl's bullshit.
AJ Cole's been mint bones. He actually has been. Yeah. AJ Cole's been fantastic this year. Carlson's been just clutch. Like, thank you to the Minnesota Vikings for deciding he wasn't good enough. A franchise who has needed a kicker for eternity.
The Vikings just know how to kill kickers, though, don't they? I'd like to vote Robbie Gould as a Pro Bowl punter after last night. I didn't know he had that.
Jack Fox has been a mint punter all year. He's been one of the best punters in the league. He's one of the best players on our team, which is a sad state of affairs when one of the best players on your team is your punter. But he didn't even get a nod for a place. Like,
I love this. Like,
Pro Bowl's a fix.
People say we discuss the minutiae of football too much, and we're arguing about punters.
I'll tell you what is good.
He's so good.
And I don't know if you've had it already, but there's a few teams who have released their head coaches already. Denver being the number 1, Jacksonville being number 2, Miami. I think it's Chicago have released Nagy by now. If not,
Chicago and the Vikings have got rid of both of the head coach and the GM.
So we know of 5 positions that are vacant. We know that the Jags, the Bears, the Vikings, the Broncos, and Miami are all definitely now looking for a head coach. If you're a young, promising head coach, which one do you want to go to?
I think I'd want Miami, you know.
I probably.
My only concern with Miami at the moment is interfering ownership, because that's the story that seems to be coming out today, is that Stephen Ross is like exerting his influence a bit, and like there's a lot of like internal strife within the building. I might want Denver because as we've already said there, but is that defense as good as it is because Vic Fangio was there? And will they? I know they've got good players, but are they going to drop off a little bit? Jacksonville have got Lawrence, but not a great deal else.
But then they've got the number 1 pick again, though, haven't they? So
yeah, they've got the number 1 pick again, and they've got a generational talent at quarterback.
They've also got a lot of cap space, I think. I'm sure I've seen that.
Yeah,
4th highest, I think they said.
What would you say, Jamie? You've been quiet for a bit. Who, if you were a head coach now and these 5 jobs were on the table, which one are you taking?
Miami, what did they finish? 8 and 9 for the season? They were very close to the playoffs. I mean, at one point they were almost there. The only thing for me is can't do lefties. So as long as I can replace Tua, Miami would be, just so I can say laces out every kick.
I would. The way I would look at it was I would eliminate the ones I wouldn't want, and there's no way I'd want to go in Minnesota. The Bears.
Minnesota are a really good team though. Justin Jefferson has been They've been very, very
I-
good. Kirk Cousins
I
is,
don't-
I'd say, solid. I mean, he doesn't seem to do a bad job. He's okay. But with Justin Jefferson in there,
They're okay. They're all right.
yeah, they're
Minnesota,
okay.
but
But
they're
I
aging.
wouldn't. And I wouldn't want to go and play the Packers twice either. And that's also why I'd rule out Denver, because you're going to have to play Kansas City and Herbert. I'm not even including us here. So I'd rule out the Bears and the Vikings purely because they're going to have to play Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And the Bears are shit. I'm not. There's no two. They beat us this year because they played us after the Gruden incident. That's another gripe of mine. So I'd rule out those two. I'd probably rule out Denver for the same reason. So it would be between Miami and Jacksonville for me.
But then you look at Miami, you've got Patriots and the Bills.
I was just saying I'm edging towards Jacksonville purely because they've got Lawrence and the number one pick and a ton of cap space. So you could do a good job there.
My choice would be Jacksonville, and I'll tell you why. Quarterback's the most important position in the NFL. I want to go to a team which has got a quarterback who is young, who is on a rookie contract. If he's on a rookie contract and he's talented, you know what else I've got? Shitloads of cap space. Because I'm paying me quarterback next and out. You know, so I've got Trevor Lawrence, who yesterday looked sensational. Take him away from Urban Meyer, work with him. He's going to be the guy we saw at Clemson. I'm telling you, he's going to be brilliant. Everything that we saw yesterday showed that can come back to him. He hasn't lost that overnight. Jacksonville would be my number one choice. For the same reason, my number two choice would be Chicago. They've got Justin Fields. He's on a rookie deal. He's a young quarterback. You know, they've got elements around there which is all right, although I think they need to tear it down. Studs.
The only issue with Chicago, the cap situation is terrible. They've
got players like Robert Quinn and Eddie Jackson who are good players, but they're in a rebuild. There's no point in keeping them on. I'll keep Darnell Mooney. I'll keep Khalil Herbert. I'll keep David Montgomery whilst he's on contract. I'll have to rebuild my offensive line. I'll get rid of everybody else and build that there, you know. So they're my top two, Jacksonville and Chicago.
Jamie's going to go, so
I'm jumping off, but you guys can take it from here.
Bye, Jamie.
Hopefully, to be fair, I'm going to press leave, but if it cuts off, I apologise, and they'll be back on in a few minutes.
We'll just keep talking. We just won't be live anymore.
For your favour, won't it? So my top two jobs would be Jacksonville would be the first one I'd take, then Chicago. Then I'd probably think, well, Denver haven't got a quarterback. They're going to be last in me list. Miami have got Tua. There's question marks about him, but he's young and he's on a rookie deal. He'll be number 3. Minnesota, Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, but where that at on him?
Yeah, I think they're all good points. Denver is an interesting job, but I said earlier, one of the issues in Denver, ownership transfer is coming up in the next 6 months. So anything that they do in this offseason could all be invalidated. You know, this is the question mark I would have there. Minnesota, I see as an aging team in a lot of places. They got some good young players, but I think it's been a team that's sort of had a good spell. It probably needs a rebuild now. Miami I like, and Jacksonville I like. I would probably take either of those two jobs. Jacksonville, there's a lot more to do, but if you're a young up and coming GM and head coach, you probably want that job more than any others because you can build it in your image. I wouldn't want the Chicago job, and it's nothing to do with Fields or anything like that. It's the sheer weight of expectation in Chicago. You almost can't have a rebuild in Chicago. They need one, but there seems to be I don't know. They've got that thing almost as a historic franchise, like a lot of sports teams do, where they can't really go through a bad spell for too long. And I think there'd be pressure there almost immediately to turn things around. I don't envy whoever gets that job. I hope it's Josh McDaniels because that would be fucking hilarious. That would just implode. Like, they'd be decent to watch on offense, but incidentally, Leslie Frazier is the bookie's favourite for the Bears job. That would be failed Vikings head coach Leslie Frazier. So if he gets the job, they're in even worse trouble than I thought they were. I don't know where that one's come from. I've just seen that in the last probably 20-30 minutes or so. I've silenced the entire end zone chat with it looks like. So it's there's a lot of decisions to be made yet. The job I wouldn't want right now is GM of the Giants. I'd say no, thank you. I'll stay at home.
I don't know. Top half of the draft picks is it's not the end of the world.
Two top 10, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it 5 and 8? Is it? Or?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting sued because you play in New Jersey and your stadium's a shit tip and your pitch is fucked and it's not a great situation. But you've got some good picks, I guess. Like, I also would pick Jacksonville just to throw that out there. Like, my only real life experience of ever even trying to rebuild a football team is all based in video games. And if you gave me those like numbers, if you said Jacksonville has these picks and this much cap space, I'd be like, well, that sounds like a fun rebuild. I'm going there. Like, that's my only real life analog to it, and that's why I'd pick it, is because that one looks like the most fun. If I'm a young head coach and someone says, you've got all this money, you've got some nice draft picks, and you've got a generational talent already drafted at quarterback. That's where I'm going.
I can say you've also got the chance to turn a notoriously poor team into playoff.
If you take that team to the playoffs or something, there's a statue of you being built outside the fucking stadium.
There's no history in Jacksonville.
They got to the AFC game a couple of years ago, didn't they?
Yeah, with Blake
Bortles.
The one thing I wouldn't want, and the one thing that would put me off Jacksonville slightly, they fired the head coach but not the GM. Trent Balk's still there, and he's not the most popular person with me or the Jacksonville area, it would appear. I don't think I would want... I would be very wary of going into a situation where the GM should probably be on the hot seat as well, and taking the head coaching job, because, to be honest, 12 months down the line, what's to say they don't sack the GM and then go, right, well, if he's going, we might as well get a new coach as well. It's hard to force a head coach on a GM, although, well, the Giants are about to do it. Sorry, I know I keep coming back to them as an example of malpractice, but I honestly can't believe how bad that organization is. From a team that, in my history of watching the NFL, because I've been watching since 2005, has always been relatively solidly run. I can't believe where they are at the minute. Like, it's insane. Sorry, Tom.
Listen, boys, I'm afraid I am going to have to jump off already. My work phone is already going. Apologies.
It's the best. They've offered you the GM job, mate.
I'm having bounced in and out, and I feel very unprofessional. But then I remember on the Third and Short podcast that suddenly subsides. But look, I'm pleased I've been able to come in and throw the cat amongst the pigeons. And but I'm gonna have to shoot off because work will not leave me alone. And as you can tell by the bags under my eyes and the bald patch on my head, it's been a stressful week, boys.
No, it's good to have you here, mate, and I appreciate it.
Good to see you, man. Take care. You can, of course, catch Mark again on the Saturday. Oh, no, never mind.
On the Never on a Saturday show.
We'll get more consistent again in the off season. That's how it works, right? We stream regularly throughout the off season, and then once the game starts,
when we've all got hope, we'll all enjoy it, and then when the season starts, we fuck it off because everyone's shit. Yeah. We've spoke about our teams, and I think if we do a quick sweep of the rest of the NFL in terms of who else we think is gonna sort of make a run in the playoffs. For me, you can't ignore the current regulars in the Chiefs. They're going to be in amongst it, aren't they? They're going to be hard to beat. I think for me, the Titans are a funny one. I don't rate them really.
It's really going to depend if Henry is back in time for the playoffs, isn't it, for them? But then we've seen this over years, and I said it like this year. Teams that have figured out how to stop Henry, the Titans fall apart. That's what's happened every time they've reached the playoffs. A team has found a way to neutralize Henry, and it's not gone particularly well for them. But then they've had to play half a season without him. Maybe they've finally learned how to play when he's not available. Yeah,
I was going to say that. They've been generating some offense without him lately, and largely the passing game as well. A.J. Brown has been since he came back from injury against us, has been playing really well. They're a strange team because if you looked at them on paper, they shouldn't be anywhere near as good as they are. But they're a very well coached team. And I think that's what it is. They never get too down. They never get too confident. They're always just level. They always stay in games, and it always gives you a chance. You rarely see them get blown out, and I think that's a lot of the reason why they are where they are. They keep finding ways to win. I don't rate them as highly as some of the other teams individually, but I could see them causing some teams a few problems.
That's pretty much where I'm at. I rate teams better as being better. I think the Chiefs are much better than them. So if it came down to the Chiefs and the Titans for the AFC, my money would be on Kansas City. But suppose they're number one seed, and you can't really ignore that. I guess you have to respect it a little bit. It's mostly because Kansas City fluffed it at the start of the year, didn't they? Patriots are a funny one. You know, do we think they're gonna? Do we think they're good enough? No. Are they going to go far? Probably. That's my thoughts on it.
It's the Titans, but with a slightly different bent on it, isn't it? It's the same thing.
The thing I always think about the Patriots is no matter what the team is, you just can't count them out in the playoffs, can you? It's that football team, it's that coaching team. It doesn't matter what team they have underneath. If they make it to the playoffs, you cannot rule them out, because there's been years where the Patriots under Brady made it to the playoffs and people are like, oh, but the record's not as good this year. Like, I don't think they're going to do as well. And then they end up winning the fucking Super Bowl. So who knows with this team? Like, they could do anything, even after losing to Miami and shit. Like,
yeah. We, you and I spoke, was it yesterday, JP, over the weekend, about Mac Jones and said he's sort of landed on his feet a little bit, being in a system that suits him. Obviously, they've got a great head coach in Belichick, and I hate myself for saying that, but you know, Mac Jones has been the best quarterback of the rookies. There's no doubt about it, really. Given that Lawrence is in a poor team, Fields hasn't had much of a chance, Trey Lance hasn't had much of a chance, Wilson's been wank. So it's, you know, he has been the better one of the quarterbacks that were drafted high last year or this year, whatever this season, whatever it is, I don't know. But like you said, Bones, you can't ignore the fact it's the Patriots in the playoffs, and that's what's annoying, really.
Sometimes that is all it takes as well, because all you need is that little worm in the other team's head that's like, oh, it's the Patriots and it's January, and then they lose.
It's like, sorry for the soccer analogy, it's like England playing Germany. They're already in England's heads, historically. Yeah. And I think the Patriots are a bit like that. You know, it's the playing the Germany, if you will. Of
that's a really interesting game, the Pats and the Bills opening things up, because that is going to be.
That's what I was coming to next, is the Bills. And you know, Josh Allen was a bit fired up last night at the points. I noticed he sort of looked a bit different, I thought. But they're another team that they are good, but will they beat the Patriots? I don't think so. I don't know. It's a bizarre one.
The Bills remind me of us a little bit, in the sense that I don't actually know how good they are. They keep winning games that I don't think they're going to win, but then they'll go and drop a game to somebody that they shouldn't be losing to. So I can't work him out. The wild card is Josh Allen, of course. I think he's either going to make or break him. I think that's where he is as a player right now. I think he's either going to lead them through that game or he's going to cost them that game. I don't think there's any. It's not quite going to be Carson Wentz level, but it's that sort of thing where it's like, he's either going to win in the game or losing the game. All the games this weekend are good, but that's one of the ones that I'm looking at and thinking that could be an interesting one.
I'd honestly say the comp for me, at least for me, for the Bills would be like sort of what Mark was saying about the Raiders before, to be fair, is they have players that individually have stood out during portions of the year, but not necessarily all at the same time, not necessarily all in a cohesive unit. There's been like Stephon Diggs is a great player. Dawson Knox has had some great games where he scored a bunch of touchdowns and then he disappears for 4 weeks. Like Singletary's the same. He has a game where he goes off and then he has 3 weeks where he just disappears. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? I agree with you, JP. I always think of the Bills as like, they've done really well this year. And every time I look at the standings, I'm like, but how? Like they have these games where certain people do really well. Like, so... Yeah, I think they might go far, but then it depends. If they can get everything together in the right time, and that's it, isn't it, the playoffs? Like, if you've got this sort of team, it's the same for the Raiders. When you've got a few people who can stand out, if it all comes together at just the right time and everyone stands out for these next 4 weeks, it can make all the difference.
Absolutely. We mentioned the Raiders. We've got the Bengals. They're a funny one. I think, from my point of view, they're beatable. I'm happy we're playing them and not the Chiefs, for example. So I do think it's a winnable game for the Raiders. For me, it's a bit like what you just said then on Josh Allen. It depends what Derek Carr turns up. It depends what Joe Burrow turns up. I'm trying to be neutral, but as a neutral, that is how it's going to go. If Carr is the great Derek Carr you've seen, then we've got a good chance of winning the game. If Burrow's the Joe Burrows of the last few weeks, we ain't going to win the game. It's that
you
simple.
can get to Burrow though. This is the thing. Burrow's a brilliant quarterback, but that line is not brilliant. And we beat the Bengals, and I didn't expect us to win that game, but it was largely through getting pressure on Burrow. And I think you got Crosby, you got Ngakoue, you can do that. And I look at all the games this weekend, and beyond Steelers and Chiefs, which I think is going to be assassination, basically. I think every game, maybe Eagles Bucks, but even that, Eagles have pulled out some weird results this year. You look at all those games. I don't think there's a game where you're looking at and going, "No, that'll be over by the second quarter." You know what I mean? I think they're all going to come down to late in the game, and that's great for football.
This isn't
brilliant.
Necessarily a knock against the Raiders or anything or even any team, but the thing that Joe Burrow has, even with a bad line, is that team has managed to find production with basically every single one of their offensive weapons. It's been Boyd, it's been Mixon, it's been Chase, it's been tight end. What's his name? Uzama. Am I pronouncing it right? Like they've seemingly managed to find production out of every single one of those positions at some time or another, and that's what. If they can get that together, they are a threat. I think. I think Bengals fans have something to be excited about. But it's like you say, it's whether it all comes down to who turns up. Like you say,
yeah.
But
we played the Bengals not too long ago, and I watched the game, and it was a close game until we lost the game. So the Bengals didn't win it. The Raiders threw the game away, and that's my concern. Is it could? I suppose it could happen again. As I said, it's which car turns up, which modified car turns up. Yeah, I don't know. Like JP said, the Steelers are the only team that I think are going to get twatted. There's no two ways about it. The Steelers are shit. We beat the Steelers. Big Ben's terrible. The Chiefs are playing well again. I think.
Roethlisberger is definitely retiring at the right time. He's gone from having a cannon for an arm to what is basically a pop gun at this point. He has it's going to be one-sided. Surely, I can't really see how it couldn't be.
I would love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong.
I wouldn't mind being wrong. I don't love the Steelers, but sooner they beat the Chiefs. But
Steelers.
And one of those teams that I don't think are going to get. I think they're going to fight hard, and fair play to them for even getting in because they were on the outside looking in by some distance.
I think they're going to fight even harder now that Ben Roethlisberger has officially announced his retirement, and I think that's the X factor in this game
They're trying for the Jerome Bettis thing again,
yeah,
where it led them all the way to the Super Bowl and they won it that year, but they don't have that.
It probably won't happen because, like you say, Ben Roethlisberger clearly has a noodle for an arm and all the agility of a tree. So
he's so bad.
It's quite scary to watch because it happened to Peyton Manning too. How the arm strength can just disappear after a few major injuries. It's
but at
weird
the same time, Steelers still have one of the best defenses in the league. And dink and dunk offense can win fucking playoff games. I know people are saying, "Oh, he can only throw 5 yards now," but the Patriots basically spent a decade battering everyone throwing 5 yards. So,
watching Patriots playoff games back in that era was fucking horrible.
They're so boring.
They were just the dullest games.
But you can't deny that, despite it being a really boring strategy, it's effective, and that's the thing that.
No different to what Tampa are doing now. I know they throw the odd deep ball because they got Evans and stuff, but Tampa are basically doing the same shit now. It's
offense sells tickets, defense wins championships, and the Steelers have a defense.
The Bucks are sorry, Jamie. I feel like I'm apologizing to everybody tonight. The Bucks are horrible to watch. It's not. They're not fun. They're not fun
unless AB's throwing a tantrum on the sideline. Then it's fucking hilarious.
Even last season, they ground teams down. All right, they only just beat Washington. They weren't great in the Super Bowl, but they did enough, and that's. At this stage of the season, all this stuff about explosive offenses and bloody Kyler finger me and all this kind of stuff goes out the fucking window because, to be honest, once it gets to the playoffs, you just need to find a way to win the game. He's still on 5,000 yards. You can
5 yards at a time.
Someone get the net. You've caught a Gary-shaped fish. Anyway, guys, I thought you were working. You were too busy to even come on tonight.
Yeah, put the iron down, guys. No, I mean, but that's true. The explosiveness, apart from, you'll get the odd play from like Mahomes and maybe Rodgers later on in the playoffs, but it's not. It's less of an offensive game in the playoffs, I always think, because everybody tightens up a little bit. And that's where just finding ways to win is important. That's why Tampa, for me, have still got an edge on a lot of other teams, because they just seem to do that more than most do.
It's the fact that I think you've not got the cushion anymore. You get to the playoffs, it's a single elimination bracket. You fuck it up trying something new, you're done for. Like, you're out. Whereas in the regular season, you have a bad game because you tried something different. You can go into the locker room afterwards and like, we tried something, it didn't work, but we still got a good record. We're okay. Like, can't do that in the playoffs.
Yeah. No. I think that pretty much is the AFC covered. So we'll swing over to your side. Obviously, we've kind of spoke about the Rams a little bit and the Cardinals to an extent. Green Bay, they're going to be hard to beat. It's not an easy place to go.
Nope.
Rodgers is playing incredibly well this year. They are a good team. So I think I'm biased. I don't know. I'm anti-Bucks, aren't I? So maybe I'm biased, but I'm anti-Brady. I quite like the Bucks. For me, this Green Bay is still a team to beat. But Rodgers bottles it, doesn't he? So that's going to be. I was thinking with the way their season started, with the horrible defeat they had at Game 1, all the talk about Rodgers, should he go on to do the quiz show or whatever? I think it'd be quite apt for him to win it and just sit there with a cigar like that.
It feels like one of those stories, doesn't it? I feel like every year there's a story like that, and I really don't want.
Last year it was Brady, wasn't it? Can he do it at another team?
Yeah.
He did.
Rodgers has said it himself in interviews later on in this year, hasn't he? When people have asked him about awards and playoffs this season, and with all the stuff that's gone on, does it mean more this year? And he's basically said, "Yeah, of course it does. Like, everyone's been talking shit, and I'm out here number 1 seed in the NFC. Like, everyone can go fuck themselves, essentially." Which is, it's fair. Yeah, I hate him, but it's fair.
He's not being a media puppet and saying what he's supposed to say, And I know he gets people's backs. But I know a lot of people hate him, but I quite like that. He's just coming and gone. Well, yeah, it does matter. Yeah, people have been giving me shit. So yeah, I quite like.
I hate the Packers, but I can respect that attitude. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be fucking funny if he gets COVID. Well said, Gaz. It'd be fucking funny if he gets COVID right before one of the playoff games or something. Starts treating it with fucking worming medicine or whatever the hell he was taking during the off-season. Sorry,
it was
if you're
anti-Brady,
I'm anti-vaxxers. Fuck Aaron Rodgers.
So
anyway.
It was like super watered down, whatever it was, and didn't do anything.
If you're Green Bay, I would be getting Aaron Rodgers COVID today so that it's gone and out of his system by 2 weeks' time.
It's an odd one, isn't it? Listen, it's hard to look, but we say this every year. I feel like we said it in the season preview as well. Every year we go, it'd be hard to stop the Packers, and then they come out in a playoff game and completely shit the bed. So.
They just got beat by the Lions, so who knows?
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they do it this year. That's what I'll say. I'm excited to see how they'll find a way to get beat this year.
Going into the offseason with the confidence rocked because the Lions beat them.
I guess we'll only see if that's going to happen or not. We've got the Cowboys. Obviously, JP sort of touched on. I do think they're going to be hard to beat. I think it is a great game.
I can't wait.
Not impossible though, because they've been another team that seems to have fluctuated quite a lot throughout the season. Where it's like
Mark mentioned earlier that we lost 5 out of 6. The one game we won in that period was against the Cowboys.
Yeah, and they were not good. You played well, but they were not good in that game. And the Cowboys, to me, it's a bit like the Packers again. Cowboys get in the playoffs and everyone goes, "Oh, this is the year, lads," and then they get beat by somebody who shouldn't. And I think we qualify as somebody they shouldn't get beat by. I can't wait because we have got absolutely nothing to lose. I don't think anyone thinks we're going to win it. We got in basically by the skin of our teeth. We've fluctuated from being great to shit all year, which probably means we're going to be shit next week, but that's just the way. But yeah, I mean, we've done that all year. There's no way anybody thinks we're going to win it. And I think that's an ideal situation for us, to be honest. There's no expectation on us, whereas they're at home in the fucking multi-billion-pound stadium. I really, really think this is going to be, and there's never been a bad 49ers Dallas playoff game. Look at the history. There has never been a bad 49ers Dallas.
Have you just cursed it? Have you just cursed it? It's going to be 3-0.
I'll settle for a bad game if we win 9-6. Robbie Gould in the last minute or something. But I can really see it being a good game. I really, really can, and I honestly can't wait. It's gonna be fun.
Normally, I'd say Jonas next week and find out, but fuck knows who will be on next week. Jonas next year and find out. Who knows? With a podcast that don't do podcasts anymore. Yeah, and I mean the other team to talk about is the Eagles, and I don't think they point because I think they're terrible.
The Eagles are weird though. They could just show up on was it Saturday their game? Or was it Sunday? It's Sunday. They could show up on Sunday and they genuinely could show up and beat Tampa, even though they're not a very good team because they keep doing it. I didn't even know they were in the playoff picture till 2 weeks ago, and someone went, "Oh yeah, if the Eagles win today, they're in the playoffs." I'm like, "The fuck? Where did that come from?" They're not good, but Christ.
Well, the rest of the NFC. I said this earlier on in the season. I feel like the strength of the NFC is super top heavy. So our division, I think only one team made it through. Like the Bears, the Vikings, and us all crapped out and haven't made it. So the Eagles squeaked by because everyone in our division sucks, other than the Packers.
Yeah, I was just looking at the tables. Then it is quite an interesting sort of read when you look at the NFC. In that you've got teams that are really good. You got the Cowboys and the Rams at 12-5, Packers and the Bucks at 13-4. And then it's a bit of a drop-off, aside from the Cardinals and 49ers who've got the records. Eagles 9-8.
Yep.
It's not a great record to be getting into the playoffs with. Although it's only a few years ago, was it Washington got him with a losing record?
Last year, they got him with a 7-9 record. Was it?
Yeah.
Was it a 6-10? I could be wrong, but they got him with a bad record because that division last year was atrocious. There's no other way to describe it.
It's not been much better this year, apart from Dak's healthy.
Yeah, that is the major, as you say, that's the major difference. Everybody else
he's looking good as well.
He is, yeah, but that is the only difference between last year and this year.
He's gone between great and kind of, dare I say it, average though, hasn't he? There's been some games where he's not been brilliant. There's some games where he's been superb, and I don't know what the difference is between the two. There's a lot of. I think the thing I would say, looking at all the games, there's a lot of very strange football teams where you're just I don't actually know what's going to turn up. I look at it and I go, Cardinals, Rams should be, they've both been really good, but the Cardinals have fallen apart down the stretch. The Rams are weird. 1 week they're throwing 7 touchdowns, the next week 4 interceptions. It's like you look at Steelers and Chiefs we've talked about. 49ers, Cowboys. I don't know what the 49ers are, and I've watched every game this year. The Cowboys are a weird team. Eagles, Bucks. I would expect the Bucks to win, but you just never know. And to be honest, have they got any receivers? Is Brady just going to be throwing passes to himself?
Well, I was going to mention this earlier, when we talked about the AB thing, and the part of the shit is he's not even been their best receiver. He's talking like he's been their number one receiver and has all the yards and touchdowns, and he doesn't. He's been beaten by Evans and Godwin all year, without fail. Player. So.
He's a bit that player. He's 33 years old. Why would you keep somebody around that's causing that much? Gronkowski is older and is more injury prone, but actually delivers and keeps his gob shot off the field. Antonio Brown.
I think somebody in one of the group chats put that AB has to have some form of brain damage or concussion or something because of the shit.
I think that was me saying I thought he had it off the perfect tackle from years ago.
Yeah, which is a shame he didn't survive on the Raiders because I'm pretty sure we had Vontae's perfect at the time, which would have been incredible. But maybe we didn't because we'd have seen it on Hard Knocks, wouldn't we? We certainly had him around that time. But
he was there for a little while.
It's gone around for a while, that one, though, to be fair, that AB suffered some sort of major head trauma in that tackle and hasn't quite been the same since. And it's been
one hell of a receiver. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, probably the best in the NFL, I would say.
I mean, he showed sparks this year that he still is that receiver deep down. That player is still somewhere in there, but there's all this ego and attitude and behavior outside of that just detracts from it.
I can
Sadly.
remember the days as a fan when Terrell Owens was seen as a diva, and he was. Don't get me wrong, but he isn't even a tenth of what Antonio Brown has brought to the last
AB has
three
fully
organizations.
one-upped him here. Like they're even like memeing about that's my quarterback, and and
The worst thing Owens ever did was do a workout in his driveway.
the press conference doing a workout in his driveway. Spiking the ball on the Dallas Star, that was another big
funny,
one.
Though. Let's be
that
honest.
was hilarious.
If someone on the 49ers does that this weekend, and I think George Kittle is a good candidate for that, I will pay them £500 out of my own bank account. There you go. Send that one viral.
Making millions a year, but
if you want to take my
£500.
flight to Dallas, I will go and do that. See me jump out the crowd, take the ball off Dak and just slam it down.
Spike it on the Dallas Star while screaming.
That's one way to get banned for America, isn't it? I think you just mentioned Terrell Owens, didn't he? When that whole AB thing was coming out, didn't he tweet?
That was what reminded me.
I will have a go. I'm fit and I'm ready, or something like that. I'll turn it in. 48.
To be fair, what did I see him on? It must have been it was one of the Chiefs players. It was Hill. Hill has a YouTube channel, doesn't he, where he races people all the fucking time. And to be fair, Terrell Owens is in bloody good shape for whatever age he is.
Always has been as well. He's an insane athlete. He's played in the NFL until quite late in his 30s, I think. He kind of... It ended with a bit of a whimper. I think he last played for maybe the Bengals. He moved around.
Oh, he was one of those that played for bloody everyone, wasn't he?
He was a top player though, similar to Randy Moss. Again, Randy Moss is another one that was a diva receiver and doesn't put the effort in and all that. I would take 10 Randy Mosses over Antonio Brown. Like Randy Moss is lazy, maybe smokes too much dope, and he might moon the crowd occasionally. But at least he's not setting his feet on fire in training camp and things like that. You know what I mean? There's no comparison for Antonio Brown other than like people that have long since washed out of the league. You said it yourself, Bones. He still looks like a good player, which I can think is the only reason that teams are even remotely entertaining having this absolute whack job anywhere near the team.
But the thing is, I said it earlier. There's a lot of situations where I'd rather take consistency over raw talent, and he has raw talent, but he's inconsistent as all hell. So,
Yeah, I totally agree. Like it's a bizarre situation. I think he's trying to bring the Bucks down. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out with something just before the game on Sunday. I think he's going to come out with something like I'm going to claim that.
I feel like he's absolutely fucked his credibility at this point between the fake Vax card, the Instagram model in the team hotel, and the text where he was like, "Oh, all this shit happened," and then more texts came out that basically proved he was lying the whole time. Like he's just annihilated his credibility. So anything he does come out with, all Bruce Arians has to go is, he's lying, and everyone's going to believe Bruce Arians.
Who are you going to believe? The Super Bowl winning coach or the guy that's washed out of 2 organizations already, plus this one? Like, do you know who I feel sorry for? His agent. He must dread the phone ringing at this point. Oh,
I feel like washed up is a really generous way to put it. This was a fireball. Like this was going out in flames. Like
a tsunami of a player.
This is like a tsunami made of petrol, so it's on fire as it's coming towards you. Like
what people don't really remember about AB is it started in the training camp with his helmet. The Raiders with that particular model he allegedly wore. They said it's now not allowed to be worn because it doesn't meet the standards. So that was issue number 1, and then there was the frostbite on his feet, which is issue number 2, and then there was a massive kickoff between him and Mayock on the sidelines, and Mayock just basically said "fuck off," and he did. In a day that 84 jersey arrived. And then he released a video, didn't he, of when he was cut from the Raiders, of him celebrating in his garden. Fucking dick.
And there was some recordings of John Gruden in the video as well. It was one of the most bizarre things I've ever watched on the internet, and believe me, it was up against some competition. It was so weird. It was genuinely the ramblings of a madman, which is where I started thinking, maybe that CTE stuff Maybe they've actually got a point. He doesn't seem well. And I don't mean this in a nasty way. He just doesn't seem well. He needs help. I genuinely think he needs help. Someone needs to get to him and get him to get some help before he does something even more outlandish. I'm genuinely quite worried about his mental state.
The problem with it is there's almost no way to prove it until you're dead.
Yeah.
So unless he accepts that there's a problem, there's no help for him, sadly, with this illness, because it really the effects of it really don't show until you've already died, do they? You literally can't see it in the brain. So
yeah, that's why like Junior Seau was the big case. I think that everyone remembers. Committed suicide, and nobody could really understand why. And then, as you say, it's like CTE.
For a second there, Bones, you almost made me feel sorry for Antonio Brown for a split second, but I fucking don't. So.
It's a weird one because in a strange way I do. Like I do because I don't feel like all of it is of his choice, but I feel like parts of that character definitely already were there and have been exacerbated by whatever the problem is. Like he is deep down, there is that person in him. It's just
it took a few bangs on the head to come out in full.
Yeah, basically that's what it feels like. Everyone's got that quiet voice inside them, but there's a reason it's that quiet voice inside you. You know what I mean? Like,
don't murder those children.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing Antonio Brown would say live in an interview, like just for no apparent reason. It'd be out of context completely, and just like, "Yeah, I was doing really. Don't murder those children." And then I caught the ball, and like,
his inner monologue just comes out loud now. I think that's, I don't know, like it's he shouldn't have even been on the books. Really, let's be honest. There was a bunch of stuff. We can't go into it for legal reasons, but there was a bunch of stuff before he signed for the Bucks that was sketchy, to say the least. Then again, half the league wants to trade for Deshaun Watson, so there you go. The NFL, it's
I think that's sort of a lovely part to sort of end the episode on Deshaun Watson there. I think before we get ourselves in trouble and get us banned from. Well, it wouldn't matter if we're banned. We don't put episodes out anyway, do we? So,
listen, if we didn't get banned for Mark's 20-minute rant on Deshaun Watson, Colin Kaepernick, OJ Simpson, and I don't know what else he threw in there, but he hit just about every major cultural talking point of America in the last 30 years. If we didn't get banned for that, we won't get banned for anything, mate.
Ray Lewis, Ben Roethlisberger.
No, that's a very good point. Ray Lewis, Ben Roethlisberger. Who else was it? Michael Irvin. I think you mentioned Michael Irvin. Lawrence Taylor.
We have annihilated some people on this show sometimes.
And we're still not getting millions of viewers. What is going on?
Well, once you make my £500 offer to the 49ers go viral, we will get millions of viewers. So there you go.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say we'll get Gaz to clip it, but he's probably busy with his fake kids, his fake job, his fake busy life, fake iron, pretending to do something. So, and I think it's a lovely place to wrap that up. I think we've covered everything from the playoff perspective. It's been really enjoyable actually doing this. It's been so long since any of us have done this, and I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it more because we've made a playoffs, but I think it'd have been more entertaining if we hadn't, because well, I wouldn't have gone on that rant because I think a 9-8 season would have been successful considering. But I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, no, thanks both of you for joining what has turned out to just be me because Jamie's bailed. Obviously Tom's phoned in sick. Good. Massive thanks to Mark as well, popping his head in, and for Jamie as well. But no, it's been like I said, I appreciate you both coming on and the other two. And for all of those listening, those that get involved in the comments, again, thank you. We do appreciate it. Tune in whenever, because we don't know when we're going to be next on. I'll try and commit to an episode next week on Monday after the Raiders have lost on the Saturday. Yeah, as always, you've got the Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Third Short Pod. If you're on YouTube, you already know what the channel is. Give it a follow, like whatever the fuck it's called. I don't know. I'm 37. I'm too old for that stuff.
Both. Give it a follow and a like.
There you go. And if you do want to come in a group chat as well, let us know. We'll always throw people into the Lions Den. And if you like stickers, you get kicked out. But JP, I think it's a good time to advertise your Twitch because you just started something new. By all means, get that out there.
Yeah, I don't think we have a graphic for it, but well, I'm pretty sure we won't do. But follow my Twitch, J Porter Comedy. So my first initial, my last name, and then the word comedy.
How thick do you think our listeners are?
I mean, come on. We've started including Prestoners in the group chat, and speaking as one, no, we're in trouble.
Absolutely right.
Or nobbers, as you call them. But yeah, Jay Porter Comedy on Twitch. I'm going to start a new series at some point of NCAA 14 with the Tram City Rollers. However, every time I get close to finishing it, I end up wasting another 3-4 hours of my life on it. So I don't know when it's going to start. A bit like the next episode of this podcast. I don't know when it's going to be, but it's going to be good. So give us a follow on there. Some of you are in the game. Some things are just downright illegal. Some of the names are ridiculous. I may only last a week on Twitch, but we'll have a good time. So come join us and we'll have some fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for joining us and listening and watching. And if you're not live, you're listening at a later date, why the fuck aren't you live? Yeah,